A crackling burst tore through the evening sky, followed by a thunderous crash. Captain Maria Cortez stood frozen for a moment, eyes wide, scanning the horizon. Trees swayed violently, birds scattered into the air, and the smell of burning metal filled the air as thick, black smoke rose from beyond the ridge. Instinct kicked in. She motioned for her team to follow. "Lieutenant, stay close," she ordered as they moved through the underbrush, rifles raised. This could be anything. As they crested the hill, the wreckage came into view. A ship, unlike anything Maria had ever seen, lay torn apart in the valley below. Its jagged, alien structure gleamed in the dim light, half buried in the earth. She paused, taking it in. This was no ordinary crash. Whatever, or whoever, had piloted this thing wasn't human. "Captain, we should call this in," the lieutenant suggested, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Maria shook her head. "Not yet." A low groan echoed from the wreckage, drawing their attention. From the shadows, a figure staggered forward, an alien, humanoid in shape but smaller and more wiry than any human. His skin was a pale, slate blue, streaked with deep cuts and bruises. His right arm hung limply at his side, but his eyes, burning with determination, locked onto Maria's. The team raised their rifles in unison. "Stay back!" Maria commanded, her voice sharp. The alien froze, panting heavily. He dropped to one knee, hands raised in surrender. I seek shelter," he said in halting, broken English. "No fight. No enemy." The words were unexpected. Maria lowered her weapon slightly, narrowing her eyes. This wasn't the typical hostile alien encounter she'd been briefed on. She could see the desperation in his eyes, the way his body trembled from exertion and pain. He was injured, dangerously so. Still, this could easily be a trap. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, keeping her distance. The alien hesitated, eyes darting around nervously as if expecting something, or someone, else to arrive. "Hunted," he finally rasped, grimacing. "By my own. They come. Not just for me. For your world." Maria's pulse quickened. She glanced at her team, tension thick in the air. "Why should I believe you?" The alien straightened, struggling to maintain his balance. "I have no reason to lie. If I wanted war, I would have brought it." He winced, collapsing forward slightly, catching himself with his one good arm. "Please! If I die here, they'll follow." Maria took a breath, weighing the options. The rational part of her screamed to put him down, to follow protocol and eliminate the threat before it escalated. But there was something else, something raw in his voice that made her pause. Fear? Desperation? Or worse, truth? "Captain," her lieutenant whispered, edging closer. "What do we do?" The alien's breathing grew more labored as he slumped further. "They come," he murmured, almost too softly to hear. "Soon." Maria clenched her jaw. "We take him in," she decided, lowering her weapon fully. "Get him patched up. We'll sort out the truth later." The team exchanged nervous glances, but no one argued. They moved cautiously toward the alien, lifting him to his feet. Maria kept her eyes on the darkening sky, her gut tightening with unease. If what he said was true, Earth was about to face something far worse than a single wounded warrior. The infirmary was quiet, save for the steady hum of medical equipment and the soft, erratic breaths of the alien. Maria stood at the door, arms crossed, watching the medics work. His injuries were worse than they'd first thought: deep lacerations, internal bleeding, and a fractured arm. Whatever had chased him had done a thorough job. She couldn't shake the unease that had taken root in her gut since the crash. "Vitals are stabilizing," one of the medics announced, glancing at Maria. "He'll pull through, but he's going to need a lot of rest." Maria nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the alien's face. He was unconscious now, his features softened, no longer etched with pain or fear. Up close, he looked younger than she'd initially thought, maybe not much older than some of her own recruits. The door slid open behind her, and Lieutenant Harris entered, his expression tight with concern. "We've got a problem, Captain." She turned to face him. "What is it?" Harris lowered his voice, as if the alien might hear through the haze of unconsciousness. "Scans picked up something inbound. Several somethings. Fast-moving, unidentified craft, likely hostile." Maria felt a chill crawl down her spine. "How long do we have?" "An hour, maybe less." His jaw clenched. "They're headed straight for us." She exhaled sharply. So, the alien had been telling the truth. Whoever, or whatever, had been hunting him was closing in. And now, they were caught in the middle of it. "Get the team ready," she ordered, her voice steady but tight. "Full defensive positions. We're not letting anything through without a fight." Harris nodded and left the room, his footsteps quickening as he disappeared down the hall. Maria lingered for a moment, looking back at the alien. His cryptic warning echoed in her mind, "They come, soon." The words had carried more weight than she wanted to admit, and now they were staring down the barrel of a full-scale attack. As she prepared to leave the room, the alien stirred. His eyes fluttered open, dull but alert, and locked onto hers. He struggled to sit up, but Maria stepped forward, gently pressing him back onto the bed. "Easy," she said quietly. "You're not going anywhere." "Too late." His voice was strained, each word an effort. They will destroy everything." Maria's jaw tightened. "We're not giving up that easily." His hand reached out, weak but insistent, gripping her forearm. "You don't understand." His eyes darkened with dread. "They do not fight fair. They won't stop." Maria studied him for a moment, her instincts warring with her training. The standard response was to extract whatever intel they could from him, then use force to repel the incoming threat. But she sensed something different here, something deeper than a simple alien skirmish. There was a desperation in his eyes that went beyond survival. He wasn't just scared for himself. He was scared for them. "What do we need to know?" she asked, her voice softer now, almost coaxing. "Tell me what we're up against." His grip tightened slightly. They destroy from within. They infect minds, not just bodies. They turn your own against you." A cold weight settled in Maria's stomach. Infect minds? It sounded impossible, but she'd seen enough strange things in the galaxy not to dismiss the warning outright. Still, it was a lot to take in. "We can handle this," she said, more for herself than him. "We fought worse." His eyes flickered with doubt. "You have no idea what's coming." Before she could respond, an alarm blared through the facility, the sound sharp and relentless. They were out of time. She rose to her feet, heart pounding. "Stay here. You're safe for now." As she turned to leave, the alien's voice stopped her. "I owe you. For saving me." Maria glanced back. "We'll talk about that when this is over." She exited the room, striding down the corridor with a new sense of urgency. Outside, the sky had darkened, and the base was alive with movement, soldiers scrambling into position, weapons primed. The air crackled with tension, a storm brewing on the horizon. Whatever was coming, they would meet it head-on. But Maria couldn't shake the feeling that this fight was going to be different, more insidious. And it wasn't just about the ships approaching them at breakneck speed. There was something else at play, something unseen, waiting to strike from the shadows. The command center buzzed with tension, every screen lit up with data feeds from the base's sensors. Outside, the once clear skies were now veiled in ominous storm clouds, swirling with the unnatural fury of an impending conflict. Maria stood at the center of the room, her gaze fixed on the main display as red blips edged closer to their position. Each one represented an incoming ship, unidentified, but certainly hostile. "ETA 15 minutes. Harris called out from his station, his voice carrying the urgency everyone felt. Maria nodded, her mind racing through strategies. They were outnumbered, but that wasn't what unsettled her. It was the alien's warning, the cryptic talk of an enemy that could turn their minds against them. In her years of service, she'd encountered countless foes, but this felt different. More personal. "How's the perimeter looking?" she asked, turning to Sergeant Vega, who was overseeing the ground troops. Defenses are up, Captain. We've got turrets ready and drones on standby. If they want a fight, they'll get one. Maria appreciated Vega's confidence, but something gnawed at her. This wasn't a fight they could win with brute force alone. Whatever was coming, they had to be smart. She glanced at the door leading to the infirmary, where their alien guest was still recuperating. His words haunted her, they destroy from within. As if sensing her unease, Harris approached her, lowering his voice. Do you think there's any truth to what he said? About them getting inside our heads? Maria hesitated. I don't know. But we can't afford to dismiss it. Keep an eye on the men. If anyone starts acting off, I want to know immediately. Harris's jaw tightened. Understood. The minutes ticked by, the tension mounting with every second. Outside, the wind picked up, whipping through the base's fortifications. Maria's team moved with precision, checking weapons, calibrating equipment, and securing the perimeter. Every movement was rehearsed, but the underlying anxiety was palpable. They were preparing for a battle they didn't fully understand. Captain! A voice crackled over the comms. It was Private Jackson from one of the outer watchtowers. I'm picking up movement on the ground, small, fast. Maria frowned. Send me the feed. A new window opened on the main screen, displaying the grainy footage from Jackson's post. In the distance, shadows darted between the rocks and ridges leading up to the base. They moved in unnatural patterns, too fluid, too precise. Maria's heart skipped a beat. Whatever they weren't human. Deploy the drones, she ordered. I want eyes on whatever's out there. The drones zipped out of their launch bays, their cameras feeding directly into the command center. As they approached the moving figures, the picture became clearer. The creatures were small, no more than 3 feet tall, with spindly limbs and elongated heads. Their skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, reflecting the storm's eerie light. Are those drones? Vega muttered, leaning in to get a better look. Maria shook her head. No. They're alive. Just as the words left her mouth, the creatures sprang into action. In one coordinated movement, they leapt onto the base's outer defenses, their limbs stretching impossibly long as they clung to the walls and turrets. Alarms blared as automated guns opened fire, but the creatures were too fast, too nimble. One by one, they tore into the defensive systems, disabling them with frightening efficiency. Damn it! Harris cursed. They're taking out our defenses! Maria's mind raced. This wasn't a frontal assault, it was sabotage. The enemy was softening them up, preparing the field for the real attack. She grabbed the comms. All units, prepare for ground engagement. Focus on the infiltrators. Don't let them breach the inner perimeter. Outside, the soldiers scrambled into position, opening fire on the creatures as they swarmed the base. Bullets tore through the air, some finding their mark, but the creatures were relentless. For every one that fell, 2 more took its place, their speed and agility overwhelming. In the midst of the chaos, Maria's calm buzzed again. Captain, we've got a breach near the north gate. They're inside. Maria's blood ran cold. They destroy from within. Vega, Harris, with me, she barked, grabbing her rifle and sprinting towards the north gate. Her heart pounded in her chest, adrenaline surging through her veins. They couldn't let the enemy gain a foothold inside the base. If they did, it was over. As they neared the breach, the air grew thick with smoke and the sound of gunfire. Bodies littered the ground, both human and alien. The creatures moved like shadows, darting between cover and picking off soldiers with brutal precision. Maria took cover behind a barricade, firing off a burst of rounds as one of the creatures lunged at her. It shrieked as the bullets tore through it, crumpling to the ground in a twisted heap. They're everywhere! Vega shouted, his voice strained. We can't hold this position for long. Maria knew he was right. The base was being overrun, and the main enemy force hadn't even arrived yet. But there was no time to dwell on the odds. They had to push back, or they'd be overwhelmed. We hold the line, Maria growled, reloading her rifle. No retreat. As the creatures closed in, she felt the weight of the aliens' warning pressing down on her. They destroy from within. This was only the beginning, and already, the battle was turning against them. But Maria wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. With a fierce resolve, she fired into the advancing horde, her mind focused on one thing: survival. Whatever was coming, she would face it head on. The roar of gunfire filled the air as Maria and her squad held the line, but it was clear their defenses were crumbling. The creatures, those fast, shadow-like entities, continued their relentless assault, moving with inhuman agility. Each moment, they drew closer to the heart of the base, their metallic skin glinting in the dim light. Maria ducked behind a barricade, her breathing ragged. She risked a glance around the corner. The north gate had been breached, and their defenses were falling apart. Sparks flew from damaged equipment, and the once strong fortifications now lay in ruins. "We're losing ground, Captain!" Sergeant Vega's voice cut through the chaos, his tone grim. He stood a few feet away, firing round after round into the creatures as they darted through the smoke. His face, usually calm, was streaked with dirt and sweat, his eyes reflecting the hopelessness of the situation. "I know," Maria growled, reloading her rifle. "But we can't retreat. If they get to the command center, it's over." Harris, crouched next to Maria, wiped blood from his brow. "We're not dealing with regular soldiers here. These things, they're coordinated, faster than anything we've ever seen." "Exactly," Maria replied, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "They're not just attacking us, they're dismantling us piece by piece. We're playing into their hands." She paused, thinking of the aliens' warning again: they destroy from within. Her gut churned with the realization. This wasn't just a physical assault. It was something deeper, more insidious. The creatures weren't only tearing through their defenses, they were sowing fear, confusion, chaos. Maria clicked on her comm. "All units, listen up. Focus on keeping them away from the inner base. Use the choke points. We're not letting them inside." She glanced at Harris, her voice low. "What's our fallback plan if this doesn't work?" He hesitated before replying. "We still have the emergency lockdown procedures, but once we trigger that, we're sealing ourselves in. No reinforcements, no way out." Maria clenched her jaw. "Then we hold the line until it's the only option." As the fight raged on, Maria noticed something. The creatures were no longer charging en masse. They were pulling back, retreating into the shadows as if waiting for something. Her instincts screamed that it wasn't over, not by a long shot. "Captain, they're regrouping!" Vega shouted, reloading his weapon with trembling hands. Maria's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a retreat. They're planning something." Suddenly, the base's lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows over the scene. The power surge sent a ripple of tension through the ranks. Maria's mind raced. Sabotage? Or something worse? Without warning, a new sound pierced the air, a low hum, building in intensity. It came from above. Maria's eyes shot upward, and her heart skipped a beat. Hovering above them was a massive ship, unlike anything she'd ever seen. Its dark, sleek body blended into the stormy skies, its presence both ominous and overwhelming. The hum grew louder, a deep vibration that rattled the very earth beneath their feet. And then, without warning, beams of light shot down from the vessel, striking various points around the base. The ground trembled as explosions followed in their wake, sending debris and soldiers flying. "Get down!" Maria shouted, throwing herself to the ground as the blast tore through the base. Her ears rang, and her vision blurred. For a moment, everything was chaos. When the dust settled, Maria forced herself to stand, her legs shaky. The base was in ruins. What little defenses they had left were gone, obliterated by the ship's firepower. Smoke filled the air, and the acrid stench of burning metal clung to her lungs. Through the haze, Maria spotted Vega, bloody but alive. He staggered towards her, his face twisted in pain. "Captain, what do we do now?" Maria didn't have an answer. Her mind raced, searching for a solution. They were out of time, out of options. And then it hit her, they destroy from within. Harris! She called, her voice hoarse. Where's the alien? Our guest, where is he? Harris, struggling to his feet, blinked in confusion. The infirmary, but. Get him. Now! Maria's voice brooked no argument. He knows something. We need him. Harris nodded and bolted toward the infirmary, leaving Maria and Vega to face the growing threat. We can't hold much longer, Vega muttered, his hand gripping his side where blood oozed from a wound. This place is finished. Maria's gaze hardened. Not yet. We still have one card to play. Minutes later, Harris returned, dragging the alien by the arm. He looked weakened, his face pale, but his eyes were sharp, filled with annoying fear. Tell me, Maria demanded, stepping toward him. You warned us about them. What are they? What do they want? The alien, gasping for breath, looked up at her. You cannot fight them, not as you are. They break the mind. Twist reality. Maria's stomach sank. How do we stop them? The alien's eyes gleamed, dark and haunted. You can't. But you can survive, if you don't trust what you see. They will make you see things. Hear things. But remember, it's all a lie. As his words sank in, the hum from above intensified. Maria looked at her team, their faces pale with fear. The base was on the brink of collapse, the enemy closing in. And yet Maria felt something shift inside her, a cold resolve. They might destroy from within, but they hadn't won yet. Not if she could help it.